All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to start chapter 5. And chapter 5 is going to kind of stick with the whole idea of lines. But what we're going to be working on is finding equations. So we're going to be finding a slope intercept equation. And we're going to learn two ways today, given slope in the y-intercept and given a graph. So keep in mind that a slope intercept equation is what we talked about last week. And it looks like this, where this number is where it crosses the y-axis. And so that's going to be 0 and then a number, because when you are on the y-axis, remember, that's going to be a 0 and then a number coordinate. And this is going to be the slope. And keep in mind, the slope is also thought of as the rise over the run, where it goes up if it's positive, down if it's negative, and so on. So today we're just going to start with kind of two concepts. Part A, we're going to write that slope-intercept equation given the slope, so that'll straight up tell us the m, and the y-intercept, which will straight up tell us the b-value. So we really don't have to do much except put it into that form. So you read each question. It says, write the equation of the line with a slope of -5 and a y-intercept of 3. So it is actually straight up telling you the slope is -5, the b-value is 3. So if you go back up and you're just replacing your m and b value with those two quantities, you write y equals your slope, and then remember the x, and then a +3 in this case, because the m value goes here in front of the x, the y-intercept or b value goes at the end. You're going to be doing an IXL, so make sure that you remember to type in the x. One thing that kids do wrong a lot is they just forget the x values. How about in this second one? It says, write the equation of a line with a slope of 2/3, y-intercept of -1. So the slope is 2/3, and the y-intercept or b value is -1. So I write my equation y equals slope x, and then my intercept. So it's not really math. It's just knowing what parts go where. Let's take a look at this last example in part A. It says a slope of -4/5, y-intercept of 1/4. So don't be scared of the fact that they're fractions, because you're just really recording what they're telling you. The slope is 4/5, the y-intercept or b value is a 1/4. So my equation will be y equals my m x plus b. So there we go. So that is going to be part A, and there's going to be an IXL that practices just that. You have two IXLs, and they're going to go pretty quickly, because as you can see from those first three examples, you're literally turning their words into an equation. So as quickly as you can type, you'll be able to answer those questions. This one's going to take a little bit tinier bit of thinking, I suppose, like a smidge of thinking, but it's still not going to be super complicated. We are going to be, in this part, it says, part B, write the slope-intercept equation, so same end result, but here you're going to be given a graph. Whenever you write those equations, you need to find the slope, and you need to find the intercept. So in this case, to find the y-intercept, you're basically just going to look with your eyes, and you're going to see where it crosses y. You're going to look to see where does it cross y. That's going to be your b value. Then to find the slope, you have to go back to what we learned about it before. You can do one of these two ways. You can use 2 points on the graph and then do the formula where you would take y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 to get the slope. Or you can, if you feel more comfortable, you can use the graph to count the rise over the run, keeping in mind that you have to reduce your answer. So let me show you a couple of examples of this, because this is a little trickier than the part A. So let's pretend that this is my graph. I need to find M and I need to find B. So my B value told me to just see where it crosses. When I look to see where it crosses the y-axis, it crosses it at -6. So my b value is negative 6. So finding the b value is what I always call an eyeball activity. You don't have to do any math. It's just an eyeball activity. You just look and say, oh, it's crossing at negative 6 on the y. That is my b value. So when I go to write y equals mx plus or minus b, my equation is going to end with a negative 6 because that's my b value. Okay, easy peasy. So let's take a look at the two different ways to do m. Let's say that I want to do the slope using the formula, like it gave me that option up here. So then I need to have 2 points. Well, they gave me 2 points, so I can use those. I can think of this as my x1, y1, x2, y2. And then I use my formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This changes to adding. I get 3 over 5. That was one of my options. That's this one, using the 2 points and the formula. Or I could instead count on the graph. So if I go to the graph, I take this point right here where I was, and I count rise over run. This one's going up, so it's going to be positive. So to get from one point to the other, and you always go from left to right, just like you would if you were reading, I would have to go up 1, 2, 3. So I'm going up 3, and then I have to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So up 3 over 5. So here I got a slope of 3/5 by using the formula. Here I got up 3 over 5, which turns into 3/5. Because anything that follows this where it says over 5, that means the number will be over 5. And because this was positive from going up, I got a positive 3. So in both cases, I'm going to get the same thing. I'm going to get a slope of 3/5. And my equation will be 3/5 x minus 6, because that was the b value that I got earlier. Okay, I am not expecting you to do 2 different ways on the formula, on the finding m. Though you can use the formula or you can count. So it's kind of whatever is the easiest for you to do. I'm showing both ways here just because I don't know which way you're going to pick. So I made that seem really time consuming. I'm going to do this one kind of more in real time. Here I would look for my b value by simply seeing where it crosses the y-axis, which is vertical, so my b value is a 4. Then I would probably count. I would count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then over 1, 2, 3 to get to this other point. So down 6 over 3, if I'm looking at that as a slope, down would be negative 6 and then over 3, which would reduce to negative 2. If you do not understand the counting and that part makes no sense to you, then we would do the formula using these 2 points, where I would be using this as x1, y1, x2, y2, and I would find my slope by taking y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'd get negative 6 over 3, and I'd end up with the same value. So once I know those 2 values, I write my equation as the m, x, and then plus my b value. Awesome. Okay, now this one doesn't give me specific points. So what I like to do is I go, okay, here's a point, and then I look for another point where it crosses through right at a crisscross point. So this is at 0, 0, and this is at 200 up 400. Okay. When I go to do my b value, I'm simply looking to see where it crosses the y, which is right down at the bottom. So my b value is going to be 0. Then when I do the slope, if I go to count it, even though these are counting by, you can see this is counting by 100s. Even if I went up 1, 2, 3, 400, up 400 would be positive, and then over 200, that has to be reduced, and I'd end up with 2. If I had counted it as up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 2, it still would have turned out to be 2. If I had done my slope formula using those points, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, I would have gotten 400 over 200, and I would have gotten 2. So whatever way makes the most sense to you, and then I would write y equals 2x plus 0, but honestly, writing plus 0 doesn't make any sense because adding nothing is adding nothing. So I would just write y equals 2x. Last example. Here, I again have to kind of take a look here and see where is it crossing the y value. And it's crossing right here. So again, my b value is going to be 0. Then I'm going to pick another point where it looks like it's crossing real well. Aside from the 0, 0, it's crossing nice and neatly here at 4, negative 1. Because remember, I had to go over this positive 4 and then down to get to it. So for my slope, I can either go rise over 1, which would be from left to right. I have to go down 1 over 4. Thinking, okay, down 1 over 4 is going to come out as a negative 1 over 4 for a slope value. If you don't feel confident counting it out like that, I would do the same thing that I said before. I'd use my left point as x1, y1, my right point as x2, y2, and I would do my formula. Y2 minus y1 over x2, minus x1, and get negative 1 over 4, which is the same thing. My equation will be y equals negative 1/4, and then don't forget the x after your slope. And then again, because it's plus 0, I would not write it. And when you do your IXL, you don't want to write it. You're just going to write this part. So those are the 2 ways that you're learning for today. I'll upload this into filled in notes. And then you have 2 IXLs. So look on there. All of them will be due Friday. So you got plenty of time to get whatever score you would like. Have a great day, you guys. Bye.